What's up, everybody? And welcome to 2023. It's a brand new Savvy Sports podcast. I am your host. My name is Jamie Nazario, and I am here to talk about today. Well, first things first, I want to say thank you and a huge shout out to everybody that tunes into the streams, everybody that watches the YouTube channel, everybody that shares the streams and all the links and all of that. I genuinely appreciate every single one of you. Thank you guys so much. As always, it is enjoyed and it is appreciated. So thank you guys so much, and let's make 2023 a year of good sports, a year of fun times, and a year of positivity and continuing to learn. First things first, guys, let's start out in the NFL. The Green Bay Packers just had to go and lose. I had to start with the Green Bay Packers today. As everybody knows, anybody who knows me, anybody who's watched, they are my favorite team. They are the team that I tune in and watch the most out of any other team in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers just could not get the job done against a very game Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are also eliminated from playoff contention. And Seattle stepped in and took that spot away from Green Bay and from Detroit. So the NFC standings are as follows. Philly is number 1, Minnesota at number 2. At number 3, we have San Francisco. Number 4, we have Tampa Bay. We have the winners of each collective conference in the NFL. And then following them, we have the New York Football Giants, we have the Seattle Seahawks, and we have the Dallas Cowboys. So I believe the wild card weekend starts off this weekend, and it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see. We have the Seattle Seahawks going into San Francisco to play the 49ers. It's going to be an interesting game. I'm not going to lie. The Seattle Seahawks have been very up and down. Geno Smith has looked like a very good quarterback at times. At other times, he kind of comes up short. And so, not to mention the fact that Geno Smith has those weapons, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. The name of their tight end escapes me, but I know he came over in that Russell Wilson trade. The defense is solid. Defense is pretty good for Seattle. San Francisco is going to be a tough out. Listen, Brock Purdy went from Mr. Irrelevant to really relevant really fast. Brock Purdy you can make an argument that he's leading the San Francisco 49ers offense. He's not playing scared. He doesn't look like a rookie third-string quarterback. He looks poised. He looks good. He looks calm. He looks ready for the moment. I believe that the San Francisco 49ers are going to beat the brakes off the Seattle Seahawks. I think it's going to be like a 30-17 game because that San Francisco defense with Bosa and the crew, they're just too explosive. They get after the quarterback. They can sack. They can get interceptions. They're locked down. That San Francisco 49ers defense is special. They are different. They are very tough-nosed. And I genuinely believe that the San Francisco 49ers are once again going to move on to the divisional round from the wild card spot. Then we have the New York Football Giants traveling to Minnesota. It's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting because Minnesota, at one point, I believe they were like 13-2. And if I'm not mistaken, they've lost 2 of their last 4 or 3 of their last 5 or something like that. And New York is a very gritty team. New York is very gritty. They don't necessarily have everything yet because they have been plagued by injury this season. They've played their tails off. Hats off to Brian Daboll, who I believe it's him, it's Sirianni, the Philadelphia Eagles head coach, Brian Daboll, and I believe Mike Tomlin. All 3 of those guys should be finalists for NFL head coach of the year. Brian Daboll led the New York Football Giants to their best record yet since the Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones era. And I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how to feel about this one. I'm not too sure how the Giants are going to do. I'm not too sure how Kirk Cousins is going to play under pressure. because he is under intense pressure. The Minnesota Vikings have had a very good record this year due to the fact that they've been winning a lot of those close games. They've been in a lot of, I believe it's a lot of games that they've won have been within 5 points, within a score for sure. And they've been winning a lot of those games where historically they would lose a lot of those games. So we'll see how Minnesota does. We'll see how Kirk Cousins does. We all know Justin Jefferson is going to show up to play. That's not really a concern with Justin Jefferson. But with that being said, again, Minnesota and that whole team, the Vikings, they're under a lot of pressure because if you lose this game to the New York Football Giants, you were frauds all season. Let's call it like we see it. The New York Football Giants walk into Minnesota, into your home stadium, and they beat you. You should look at getting rid of Kirk Cousins. Undisputedly, look at getting rid of Kirk Cousins. Buffering that defense, buffering that offensive line, but Kirk Cousins has got to go. He's not going to be the answer in Minnesota. Do we see a repeat of what happened in 2005 with Aaron Rodgers potentially leaving the Green Bay Packers, going to the NFC North rival in the Minnesota Vikings and going to play with Justin Jefferson and those guys? That could leave a lot to see. And then we have the Dallas Cowboys versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Week 1 of the NFL season, the Buccaneers beat the Cowboys. Now, during the first round of the NFL playoffs, the Cowboys go once again up against Tom Brady. This is a seasoned Dallas Cowboys team. This is a Dallas Cowboys team that, let's be honest, they've been very successful considering everything that's been going on with them. Dak got hurt early in the season. They've had a lot of injuries, especially on their defense. Anthony Brown went down. So we'll see how they play. But I still don't see the Cowboys beating Tom Brady. I can't do it. I cannot see the Dallas Cowboys rolling into Tampa Bay and beating Tom Brady. You never know. You never know because the Dallas Cowboys, listen, Micah Parsons is a Defensive Player of the Year every single year. He's a candidate, at least. Micah Parsons has been balling. And he is arguably the best player that the Dallas Cowboys have. You have Trayvon Diggs, who's a very good lockdown corner. And it's sad to say, and I had to take a pause because you have to phrase it properly because Tom Brady's a 7-time Super Bowl champion. The greatest winner in NFL history. There's no denying that his career is over. At 45 years of age, he comes back. Mike Evans doesn't look the same. Chris Godwin came back from injury. He doesn't look the same. Julio Jones contributed, but he wasn't that difference maker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The defense looked a lot older, and it looked a lot more different under Todd Bowles as opposed to Bruce Arians last season when they were playing a lot harder, with a lot more passion, a lot more heart. I don't know. I truly believe that the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are very much a pick-it game. You could pick whichever team you want, and there really can't be not a tough answer, but there can't be any wrong answer because both teams, it feels like they're both evenly matched. It feels like both teams, it's going to come down to Dak Prescott finally getting those interceptions right. It's going to come down to Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. The Dallas Cowboys need to give those guys the football. There's no two ways about it. You have to give Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard the football and let them take you there. Let them take you there because this defense has been beat up, and if there's anything that Ezekiel Elliott and especially Tony Pollard could do, it's take advantage of a defense that's been beat up, looks older, cannot potentially keep up with those guys to the degree that they could during that Super Bowl run a few years ago. And I believe I'm actually going to pick the Dallas Cowboys, even though I have a bet with my boy Billy. Shout out to Billy in Austin. Much love to you and nephew. I have a bet with my boy Billy where if the Cowboys win, I have to wear a Dallas Cowboys shirt during the podcast. He tried to get me to do a jersey. I'm not buying no Dallas Cowboys jersey. Let's be honest here. The same way that I wouldn't buy a Chicago Bears jersey. But that's besides the point. We'll get into the Chicago Bears in a little bit. As we move into the AFC matchups, we have the Baltimore Ravens up against the Cincinnati Bengals. We have the Miami Dolphins going up against the Buffalo Bills, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Los Angeles Chargers going head to head. I don't know about Baltimore. I think that they have the Lamar Jackson contract hanging over their heads. What are they going to do with Lamar? Is he going to walk? Is he going to stay and sign a very lucrative deal? Which this season, it's tough to make the argument that Lamar Jackson should get a long-term, high-value deal because the guy's been hurt to close out the last 2 seasons. He's only won 1 playoff game. And to sit there and say, hey, Lamar Jackson, here's $275 million guaranteed for the next 5 years for you to stay here and be our franchise quarterback, we need to see some longevity. We need to see Lamar Jackson be put in better situations that are going to be better suited for him and his strengths. And I believe that the Baltimore Ravens have been the monkey on Lamar Jackson's back. Literally, Lamar Jackson has carried this Baltimore Ravens offense for the past, you could make the argument, for the past 4 years. And I don't believe that Lamar Jackson should want to go back to Baltimore, even though that team has tried to scheme their offense around Lamar Jackson. Why would I want to go back to a system where I'm getting hurt, I'm not getting weapons, I'm not getting separation, guys are being able to know how we play? I don't see that as a beneficial situation. Now, is Lamar Jackson going to make a lot of money on this offseason? 100% he is. I believe that the San Francisco 49ers should give him a call. I believe that if Kirk Cousins does indeed leave the Minnesota Vikings, the Vikings could be a good situation because he could run, the inclement weather, Justin Jefferson and those guys. Lamar Jackson, we saw he started the season slinging the football now. So he's proving that he can do that. The problem is, again, the Baltimore Ravens just don't give him that help that he needs to stay healthy and to be productive. We have the Miami Dolphins going up against the Buffalo Bills. Miami got him on the first matchup because Buffalo traveled down to Miami. We saw Stephon Diggs getting cramps. We saw a lot of guys just going down because of that hot Miami weather. Going back to Buffalo, Tua Tagovailoa showed a lot of heart. He showed a lot of heart. He showed that he could play regardless of the snow or not. He showed that he could still be very productive. And it's sad to see that Tua Tagovailoa is constantly hurt too. He hasn't been the same since he suffered those concussions. I believe it was during week 4 or week 5 of the NFL regular season. He plays the game against the Buffalo Bills. He takes a hard hit. He goes down, takes 2 snaps off. Mike McDaniels throws him back out there. And then you go up against the Cincinnati Bengals and you take a tough hit. You're down. You're clenching your fingers and stuff. He definitely suffered a concussion. It was very painful to see. And I don't want Tua getting hurt. I believe that Tua could be a good to very good NFL quarterback, especially in the system with Tyreek Hill, with Jalen Waddle. These guys have breakout speed. Unlike anything we've seen in the NFL, these guys are crazy fast. Jalen Waddle gets the football, and if you're not in front of him, he's zooming past you. Tyreek Hill, people have to lay off of him because you can't risk him catching the football, turning around, and he's already past you. So people have to lay off of Tyreek Hill, especially on those 5-yard slants where he could just take off and be gone on you. A 5-yard slant can turn into a 70-yard touchdown with Tyreek Hill on your team. In my opinion, he was top 6 MVP voting this year, but that's yet to be seen. I believe Buffalo wins. I believe Cincinnati beats Baltimore. I believe Buffalo beats Miami in Buffalo, which I don't think that the Miami Dolphins are going to be ready to play for. We don't know what the situation is going on with Tua. And so I think that Miami gets sent home. And then finally, we have the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, the battle of the Blondies. We have Mr. Trevor Lawrence, the number one overall pick against Justin Herbert. And that's another pick 'em game. That's another pick 'em game because on paper, the Los Angeles Chargers are a much better football team. On paper. Now, their head coach has left a lot to be desired because of the decision making, a lot of tough losses. There's an argument to be made that the Los Angeles Chargers should be better than what they are. And they've been riddled with injuries. I believe Keenan Allen was out for a significant amount. Mike Williams, I think, was out for a little bit too. They have a very tough defense with Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and Derwin James and that whole crew. And I believe that the defense is going to show up to play. But I don't know because Jacksonville has gone on a little bit of a hot streak. They took the AFC South directly from underneath the Tennessee Titans, beat them on the last week of the season to punch their ticket to the playoffs. And you never know what can happen with Trevor Lawrence. You really never know what could happen with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's a national champion for a reason. The last few seasons with the whole Urban Meyer situation and everything going on there, you just didn't know. But Trevor Lawrence could really be that guy right now. He really could. Like I said, the Jacksonville Jaguars have been streaky good, kind of like the Detroit Lions were. So we'll see. And then Kansas City and Philly are the number one seeds. Super Bowl predictions. Right now, if I'm listening to my gut and my honest opinion, I genuinely believe that it's going to be San Francisco or Philadelphia. That's going to be the NFC Championship matchup, depending on how those games go. And then you're going to have Kansas City and Buffalo in the AFC Championship picture. I think it's going to be Buffalo and Philly or San Francisco and Buffalo. But I think Buffalo beats Kansas City. At long last, they get over the hump, beat Patrick Mahomes, especially after everything that happened with Damar Hamlin. The Buffalo Bills have a lot of momentum going on. They're playing with heavy hearts. I believe that that carries them over. And by the way, as an aside, I just want to mention this. Prayers and thoughts go out to Damar Hamlin. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, which everybody has seen the footage, whether you're a football fan or not, Damar Hamlin, safety, who stepped into the starting role after Micah Hyde went down, suffered, wasn't even a nasty hit. It was just a regular football hit. The way he gets hit in his chest, collapses onto his teammate's helmet, stands up, goes back down, and was knocked out, essentially, in layman's terms, if you will. And I don't want to make light of the situation or anything like that. I'm just explaining, what happened on the football field and how it went down. He was transferred over to the University of Cincinnati Medical Hospital, where he was treated. He's been there, if I'm not mistaken, for about 4 or 5 days. He had a breathing tube at one point. Thankfully, that was removed. His family, his peers were with him. And from what I heard and from what I saw on Twitter, Damar Hamlin was released from the hospital. So a lot of prayers go out to Damar Hamlin on a speedy recovery. We hope for nothing but the best for this young man. 24 years of age, starting off his NFL career. And we're thankful that he's alive. We're thankful that he's alive. We're thankful that he's doing well. We're thankful that he was released from the hospital and able to fly back to Buffalo. His mother was there on the sidelines. She had to, basically fight her way onto the field to make it into the ambulance with him and go with him to the hospital. Like I said, released from the hospital, flying back to Buffalo. He's home, and we're very thankful for that situation, that now Damar Hamlin is safe. He's sound. He's getting healthy. And nothing but prayers for that young man. Like I said, it's a violent sport. Football is a very violent sport. And we don't want any traumatic experiences, nor do we want players getting hurt. We want for nothing but the best, because at the end of the day, as fans, we want to enjoy good quality football. And that was a very scary situation on Monday Night Football on ESPN. And excuse me for a second. because it's tough to talk about. It's very tough to talk about the situation that happened with Damar Hamlin. And I barely played football when I was in high school. I saw guys get hurt, but nothing ever to that degree. And it was scary to witness. It was scary to witness the way that he was laying there, the news that kept coming out about how they had to use a defibrillator on him after trying to give him CPR. Some of the details that have come out about his injury and how it happened. I don't want to get into too much detail because, again, I'm not too well versed in it. But we all saw what happened on Monday Night Football. We're thankful that he's okay. And we're very thankful that he was able to fly home to Buffalo to continue his recovery. And now we switch gears to some NBA action. Ladies and gentlemen, the Brooklyn Nets. The KD trade, Kyrie doesn't play, Ben Simmons is a diva, Brooklyn Nets, they're sitting at 27-13. They are 14 games above 500. The Brooklyn Nets of this season, look at what good coaching can do for you. Jacques Vaughn took over, and immediately this team has won 18 of their last 20. They went on, I think, on like a 13-game winning streak. The Brooklyn Nets are for real. I'm going to say it again. The Brooklyn Nets with KD, Kyrie, Ben Simmons, Joe Harris, Seth Curry, Nick Claxton, they are for real. Nobody wants to see these guys on a 7-game series. Brooklyn's going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm calling it now. The Brooklyn Nets, and obviously it depends on seeding, I understand, but the Brooklyn Nets and the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to meet in the Eastern Conference Finals. I told y'all a few weeks back that the Cleveland Cavaliers are going back to the NBA Finals, led by Donovan Mitchell, and we're going to get into Donovan Mitchell in a little bit, 71 of them things. But the Brooklyn Nets, KD might be an MVP candidate. Kyrie might be nominated for Most Improved because it can't get much worse than it was last season and 2 seasons ago with Kyrie Irving. He might be nominated for Most Improved. I'm just excited. I'm excited to see how these NBA playoffs are going to shape up in the weeks to come. And we're not even at All-Star Weekend yet, and the NBA has just been throwing out bangers and bangers. We had, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where we had just a hot streak of 50, 60, 71-point games from Donovan Mitchell. Luka Doncic with a 60-point, 21-rebound, 10-assist, triple-double. To start off the season, I believe it was a very few short games in. We had Joel Embiid dropping 57 and 13. Who did he drop that against? It was against the Utah Jazz. He dropped 57 points on the Utah Jazz to start off the season. So as it stands now, the Eastern Conference seedings, we have the Boston Celtics at number 1. We have the Brooklyn Nets at 2, Milwaukee at 3, Cleveland is at 4, Philadelphia is at 5, Indiana, 5 games above 500, led by Tyrese Halliburton, averaging 20 and 10. Ben Mathurin, in my opinion, has to be a 6th Man of the Year candidate. I know a lot of people want to give it to Russell Westbrook. I can't do that. The kid's been playing his heart out, averaging about 18 points a game coming off the bench, being that Energizer Bunny for that team. You have Miles Turner up in there. Goga Bitadze's up in there. You have a lot of pieces that enjoy playing together, and it looks like Rick Carlisle is finally being able to put this together and make a team structure that works out. You have the New York Knicks at number 7, and this is the play-in tournament. Knicks at 7, Miami Heat at 8, Bulls at 9, Hawks at 10, and you have the Washington Wizards and the Toronto Raptors on the outside looking in at 11 and 12. And then we get into they're definitely not going to make it category: Orlando, Charlotte, Detroit. I feel bad for the Charlotte Hornets. It just feels like they can't catch a break. I mean, this team has been fun to watch with LaMelo Ball. I think that this team really missed Miles Bridges. They missed Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball. I think LaMelo missed the first like 15 to 20 games of the regular season with that injury. And I'm going to tell you something. The Detroit Pistons are also going to be very fun to watch. I would say in about 5 or 6 years, I don't think that Dwayne Casey should be head coaching this team anymore. I think that it should be somebody fresh, someone young. We see what happened with Boston. They brought in Ime Udoka as a first-year coach, takes them to the finals. We see what's happening in Brooklyn with seasoned veterans and Jacques Vaughn after 3 years of Steve Nash. Jacques Vaughn comes in there, and these guys go on a hot streak. I genuinely think that the Pistons at this point need a new voice to get that team over the hump and finally start putting some of these pieces together. Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren. You picked up Bojan Bogdanovic, who's eventually going to be a trade chip for you, just like Jeremy Grant was. So the Pistons right now, they might be terrible, but look out, because this team can be scary in about 3 to 4 years. I mean, Jaden Ivey just has that killer in him. And don't get me started with the Orlando Magic. Paolo Banchero is special. Paolo Banchero is flat out rookie of the year, no discussion. Kid's averaging like 23 and 7. I think on 49% shooting from the field, if I'm not mistaken. But he's flat out rookie of the year. Just give him the award already. It's over. There's nobody else unless he gets hurt and we don't want injuries to happen, or if he dissipates in his game because people start getting used to him. And there's no answer for somebody like that. He's 6'10". He's got a jumper. He's an offensive juggernaut. He's an offensive juggernaut. And I truly do believe that the only way that Jaden Ivey can overtake him, because it's him, it's Jaden Ivey, it's Ben Mathurin. Those are the top 3 guys in Rookie of the Year voting, in my opinion. The only way that Jaden Ivey could overtake him is if Jaden Ivey starts averaging 30 points a game for the rest of the season. And even then, it'll be like, but Paulo, number 1 pick and all that. The Raptors have been kind of, it's been weird. It's been weird for the Toronto Raptors because they have a solid unit. Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet. They have a solid unit, but they're also 6 games under 500, which you don't expect that from the Toronto Raptors, who a few years ago won that championship just before the pandemic. And I don't know. I don't want to say that the Raptors will go into a rebuild, but when you're anywhere hovering around with the Washington Wizards, even if it's just for one season, it's not a good look because the Washington Wizards just find a way to be pathetic every single year, regardless of what kind of team they have. Bradley Beal, he's overrated in my opinion. Bradley Beal went from one of those guys who, if you add him to a roster that is a piece away, he could be a champion, but I'm done with Bradley Beal. And the Hawks, I think the trade worked. I genuinely think that the trade worked. For DeJounte Murray, bringing him over from San Antonio, you kept your core together. You kept Trae Young. You kept John Collins. You kept Clint Capella. You kept Okongwu. You kept DeAndre Herter. You kept the entire core together, and you added DeAndre Hunter to that team, or DeJounte Murray, to that team. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't click. Because, like I said, they're 2 games under 500 right now with a lot of these teams like the Pacers and the Knicks and the Nets, who last year were teams that were not very good, but this year have ascended. And the Knicks have been very solid this year. They're 4 games over 500 right now? Adding Jalen Brunson has been amazing for them. Could you imagine Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell playing next to each other, at this point in the season, I'm willing to say that you should have traded RJ Barrett with 5 first-round picks to the Utah Jazz and gotten Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell to play next to each other. You should have just done that because RJ Barrett is just one of those guys that's going to be solid, right? And for New York, who has been starving for a superstar, has been dying to have that guy in his prime to bring people in, Donovan Mitchell was that piece. But they didn't get it done. They kept RJ. They get Jalen Brunson in from the Dallas Mavericks, signing him in free agency. And the Miami Heat trade Kyle Lowry. What else can I say? I mean, Heat Twitter has just blown up already over Kyle Lowry. The experiment just hasn't worked. It's not a fit at this point just because Kyle Lowry is not bombing from the outside. Not that he was known for doing that anyway, but it just feels like his minutes on the Miami Heat roster are not being productive. It doesn't feel like we got Toronto Raptors Kyle Lowry. It feels like we got a comfortable champion Kyle Lowry who's just here, right? Jimmy Butler's still going to be productive. Bam Adebayo's still going to be productive, even though I'm flabbergasted at the fact that Bam Adebayo's not even on the counting ballots for All-Star. How is Bam Adebayo going to be a reserve yet again? Make him a starter. Make Bam Adebayo a starter. Jimmy Butler's probably going to be a starter. That's a given. But we're definitely going to have 2 All-Stars, maybe 3, maybe Tyler Hero. Listen, Tyler Hero, he got reinserted into the starting lineup. He's been balling. So we'll see what that comes down to. We slide over to the Western Conference of the NBA. We had the Denver Nuggets and the Memphis Grizzlies tied up at 26 and 13 apiece, followed by the Pelicans at 24 and 16, the Dallas Mavericks at 23 and 18, the Sacramento Kings. Let's talk about it. The Sacramento Kings have been the face of mediocrity in the NBA for, I want to say, the last 8 years, right? Ever since Boogie Cousins left, they've just been the face of mediocrity in the NBA. And this year, they're 2 games above 500 as the 5th seed in the Western Conference. Now, that can change, especially after All-Star, when teams start ramping it up, gearing up for the playoffs. But the Sacramento Kings have really come out of nowhere with De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis. You pick up Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter. You have, what's their center? It's not Cauley Stein anymore. Is it Trey Lyles? Is that who they have as center right now? So they've been a surprise, honestly. The Sacramento Kings have been a very good surprise in the NBA this season, as well as the Pelicans. The Pelicans showed that they were no fluke. That if they would have had Zion Williamson on that team last year against Phoenix, they would have knocked Phoenix out of the first round. The Pelicans are coming, guys. Zion Williamson is down right now, but you still have CJ McCollum, who a few weeks ago dropped 41. You have Jose Alvarado as that energizer bunny who comes off the bench and gives you very productive minutes, especially on the defensive side. You have Jackson Hayes, who's an athletic 7-footer who plays above the rim, who, when Zion is not in, you still have a very good young paint presence who can block shots, grab rebounds, a lob threat for CJ or for Brandon Ingram and these guys. The Pelicans have a very good roster under Willie Green. This team has done a complete turnaround. They were completely dead under the water. You had Alvin Gentry as the coach. Then you transitioned to Stan Van Gundy. I knew the Stan Van Gundy experiment was not going to work. Now you have Willie Green as a coach, and this is what a lot of the NBA teams should be looking to do. You should be looking at young head coaches to give them a chance to come into your organization and add a fire and inspire these guys who need coaching to be good players. Look at the Pelicans. Look at Taylor Jenkins and the Memphis Grizzlies with Ja Morant and Desmond Bain and Triple J and Brandon Clark on that team. A young coach came in, and these guys are in contention for the Western Conference Finals this year. I don't know if they're going to make it because they have to go through Denver. Golden State's still out there. We got the Clippers, the Dallas Mavericks. Both conferences are loaded. I think this is the most complete split NBA that we have seen in a very, very long time. Where before it was, LeBron's obviously coming out of the West, and then it's the Spurs or it's the Dallas Mavericks in 2011, or it's the Golden State Warriors who went on like that 5 finals run or 6 finals run. But the NBA is loaded this year. You have the Nuggets are viable contenders, the Grizzlies, the Pelicans. The Dallas Mavericks are a piece away from being contenders. Golden State and the Clippers can't be denied, even though they've been dealing with some injuries, especially the Warriors going through that Stephen Curry injury. They can't be slept on. And you never know what the Lakers do. The Lakers are only 2 games under 500. You never know what they do. Maybe they find a solid piece to pair with LeBron and AD. The Lakers next year, if they're able to get Kyrie Irving to pair with AD, with LeBron, I think that's going to be what keeps LeBron in LA. If the Los Angeles Lakers want to keep LeBron James, you better hope Kyrie Irving's walking through that door to Crypto.com Arena, formerly known as Staples Center. Because otherwise, LeBron is gone. You're trading LeBron James at the end of the season. And then you have other teams in the mix too, like the Jazz, who have severely cooled off. The Utah Jazz have cooled down severely since the beginning of the season. You have the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are only 4 games under 500. And then from there, it seriously tails off with the Spurs and the Rockets. But you have a lot of really good basketball all over the place to watch. Like, this is the year for NBA League Pass. This is the year to watch the games on TNT and ABC. This is the year of basketball, for sure. You don't know who's going to the finals. I predict it's going to be Golden State and Cleveland, but I might end up having to change my prediction because the Warriors are at 500 right now. And meanwhile, the Memphis Grizzlies look like they could take them out at any point. Because the Memphis Grizzlies want that Golden State smoke. It's very interesting to watch and very thrilling to see what happens in the NBA this year. But like I said, let's get to the Lakers, because I don't know what the hell the Lakers are going to do. I have no idea. Anthony Davis has been down, I believe, for about a month now. LeBron James doesn't have the sufficient shooting around him to be able to continue to carry a team. If he had a Jordan Clarkson and a Bogdanovich, if they would have made that trade with Utah, the Lakers would be in a much better situation right now. They might be what they're at right now if they got some sufficient shooting as opposed to running it back with Russell Westbrook and this core and just adding Patrick Beverley and a few young pieces. Although Lonnie Walker is somebody you want to keep and Austin Reeves is somebody you want to keep too. In my opinion, those 2 guys are untouchable right now. Lonnie Walker is a guy that can give you 20, 25 points on any given night. He's lanky. He can play good defense. He's not a very good shooter, but when he lacks for in shooting, he makes up for in scoring buckets, being that 3rd, 4th option behind LeBron, AD, Russ. Patrick Beverley, the Patrick Beverley experience has not worked with the Lakers. Where do you send Patrick Beverley? What do you do with that $13 million deal? A lot to be desired from these Lakers, but they're not completely out of the mix yet. Like I said, they right now they have better records than the Jazz and the Thunder, and they are a half a game behind the Blazers and the full game behind the Timberwolves right now. So we'll see. We'll see that the bottom tier of the Western Conference can be just as thrilling as the top tier. Just because you don't know, especially with the play-in tournament, who's going to do what moves are going to be pulled, especially with All-Star Weekend around the corner. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more trades happen in the coming weeks before next month's NBA All-Star break. But yeah, a lot of thrilling basketball to see. And my final topic for today that I want to get to is the WWE. Now, I want to get into the WWE because a few weeks ago, some articles in the New York Times had come out about Vince McMahon and some of his transgressions, if you will, in the past. Now, me personally, I've been watching professional wrestling since I was about 3 to 4 years old. My grandpa got me into it, and I've genuinely enjoyed the product. I participated as a professional wrestler at one point, so it was very much an enjoyable experience for me on all ends as a fan and as a performer. But ever since Triple H took over, it just feels like the WWE is fresh. It has a new face behind it. It has some fun storylines going on right now. The bloodline is the best thing in wrestling, period. With Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, the Usos, Solo, and Paul Heyman. You could see the genius of Paul Heyman in there a lot of the times, especially with those promos. And I genuinely do not want Vince McMahon back in power. I don't, because if you are progressing, why would you regress back to what wasn't working for the last 5 years, if you will? Like, it feels like the WWE really took off when Roman turned heel. And I kind of want to see how the story plays out. And I feel like if Vince is back in power and Triple H is off of creative, because Vince McMahon is only on the business side of things right now. He is, apparently the WWE is up for sale, and they're also working on new TV deals. So Vince McMahon apparently has a stipulation in the contracts where the deals cannot be signed without him approving the deals, and he owns 80% of the company still, even though he did step away. So he pulled a Tom Brady on all of us, retired and then unretired, and now we're going to get to see the same old stuff. Hopefully not, but that's how, unfortunately, and probably the cookie's going to crumble is we're going to see Vince McMahon back in the creative side of things for WWE. But like I said, I'm genuinely enjoying the product now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the storylines that are going on. Raw just feels like a crisp professional wrestling show, and then SmackDown's the flagship show. I don't think anybody could deny that. That show definitely misses Pat McAfee, though. SmackDown sincerely misses Pat McAfee because that voice on commentary next to Michael Cole and his excitement, and I never thought I would say that because I was not a fan of Pat McAfee at first, but the guy's made a believer out of me. Pat McAfee has for sure made a believer out of me. So that's going to be pretty much it for our show today, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Happy 2023. A lot of sports to watch, a lot of discussions to have, a lot of things to cover, and we're going to have a good time, and we're going to progress, and we're going to continue to bring you guys everything here at the Savvy Sports Podcast. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Please continue to share the streams, continue to watch, continue to have a good time, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon.